You know, one of the most powerful forces in investing is something you can see coming from literally decades away. Today, we're going to explore a huge investment story in India that's being driven by exactly that demographics. So let's break down this opportunity and the Bandhan Healthcare Fund, a product designed to capture it. Okay, let's dive right into the single most important trend driving this whole story. As a nation, India is getting older. I mean, just look at this timeline. The median age is set to jump from around 28 today to over 38 by 2050. And here's the simple economic truth that follows this trend everywhere in the world. An aging population means way more healthcare spending. That right there, that's the bedrock of this entire investment idea. So this completely predictable demographic shift, it shined a massive spotlight on a huge gap in the country's current healthcare infrastructure. And it's that gap, the space between rising demand and what's currently available, that's the core opportunity we're exploring today. Wow, okay, this chart really puts the scale of the challenge into perspective, doesn't it? India is starting from a base of just 1.2 hospital beds for every 1,000 people. That is drastically lower than global players like China or Japan. We're not talking about a small gap here. This is a massive infrastructure deficit that just screams urgent need for growth. And this number, this right here, perfectly illustrates the investment thesis. Just to meet some basic global benchmarks, India needs to get to around 3 beds per 1,000 people. That means it has to more than double its entire existing hospital capacity. That is a clear, quantifiable goal that signals a long, long runway for investment and expansion. And listen, it's not just about the physical beds and the buildings. The human side of the infrastructure is just as critical. With only zero point 0.7 doctors for every 1,000 people, India is facing a really severe talent shortage. This just highlights that the investment opportunity isn't only in construction, but it's across the entire ecosystem, including things like medical education and training. Okay, so you see the trend, you see the massive gap. So the big question is, how can an investor actually get exposure to this long-term story? Well, let's look at a specific financial product designed to tap directly into this very opportunity. And this is really the core idea behind the Bandhan Healthcare Fund. It's positioning itself as a thematic investment, a way to add this very specific growth story into your broader portfolio. They're framing it as, a shot of both health and potential wealth. So what is it really? Well, at its heart, this is a specialized, open-ended equity fund. And what that means is it's designed to do one thing and one thing only: buy shares of companies that operate exclusively within this growing healthcare world, from hospital chains all the way to pharmaceutical developers. All right, so how does the fund actually plan to capture this opportunity? Let's take a look under the hood at its game plan for picking the potential winners inside this pretty diverse sector. Okay, before we go any further, we need to quickly define a key term you're going to see in their strategy: CDMO. It stands for Contract Development and Manufacturing Organization. Just think of these companies as the expert, high-tech manufacturers for the big pharmaceutical innovators. They're a really critical part of the global supply chain. Now, the fund's strategy isn't about making one single giant bet on healthcare. Instead, it's built on a much more balanced approach, diversifying its investments across 4 different themes. As you can see, it's planning to allocate capital almost equally across hospitals, those export-focused CDMOs, generics, and then domestic drug formulations. This table really breaks down the why behind each of these pillars. For hospitals, it's all about that domestic demand gap we talked about. For CDMOs, it's about tapping into the global trend of big pharma outsourcing their manufacturing. For export generics, it's about finding companies with a great track record of getting those all-important regulatory approvals. And finally, domestic formulations targets the high-growth therapy areas specifically within India itself. But it's not just about picking themes. The fund also applies a pretty strict filter to select the individual companies. It starts with a bottom-up analysis of the business itself. Then it scrutinizes the management team running the show and assesses the real growth potential. The final check is always valuation, using key metrics like return on capital employed, or ROCE, which basically tells you how efficiently a company is using its money to make profits. Okay, so we've seen the trend, we've seen the opportunity, and we've seen the strategy. Now for probably the most important part: who is this type of specialized thematic fund actually for? Let's try to connect this back to your own investment goals. It is absolutely essential to understand the trade-off here. By focusing all in on one sector, you get the potential for higher returns if that sector does really, really well. But that concentration also comes with higher volatility and sector-specific risks compared to, say, a broad market fund that owns a little bit of everything. So really, this all comes down to whether you're a specific type of investor. If you truly believe in this long-term healthcare story, if you want to add a thematic slice to your portfolio, and, this is the most important part, if you're comfortable with the higher potential for ups and downs that comes with it, then this kind of fund might just align with your goals. And that's our look at the investment thesis behind the Bandhan Healthcare Fund. We'll leave you with this final thought, a question that gets right to the very heart of this entire opportunity. Is this powerful, predictable demographic shift the key that's going to unlock the next decade of wealth in India?